Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live streaming video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary-Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream of this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, please call 905-815-6095. Again, that's 905-815-6095. When you call in, staff will be standing by. You'll have to state your name and address for the record and the number of the item that you wish to address. Further instructions will be provided to you to call back and join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. Next, the applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of their application and answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for this presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for each presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will also be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided a further 5 minutes to respond to the comments made by interested parties and answer any questions that the committee members may have. If the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, particularly with any proposed conditions, this will be the time to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision, and this will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice of the decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary-Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent to the applicant, agent, any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant, specified persons, and public bodies may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please note that in November 2022, Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights from members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the Secretary-Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who has received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and other people participating in the electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. We have only one regret this evening. That's Mr. Hardcastle. Declarations of pecuniary interests. I see none. Thank you. Madam Secretary, I will also take requests for deferrals or withdrawals of applications at this time.
Madam Chair, I have one agent with their hand up in the meeting. I will move them in.
I will. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Um,
I would
Miss-
like to request a deferral.
for which application, Mr. Imami?
376 Rebecca Street.
That's A070 of 2025.
Yeah,
Okay. You're requesting a deferral to continue to
to
work
talk
on.
to planning staff because they are not supporting the application. We would like to work with them and address their concerns.
Very well, thank you. All those in support of a deferral? Okay, the application has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer at your earliest convenience.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
I see no other agents with their hand up. There is a hand up right now, but I believe it's for a delegation for later.
Oh, okay. All right. Once again, if there's anyone in the meeting who would like to request a deferral of the application at this time, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will invite you in. If not, we will proceed with the first item on the agenda.
Excuse me. I have an issue with Beech Tree. 227 Beech Tree.
Ms. Price, okay, let me try and find that. Which application is that?
It's on A07 22 20225. It's number 6.7. Beech 227 Beech Tree.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Price.
Yeah, I went to visit the property this afternoon and there was no sign posted.
Okay. Is the agent for application 072 of 2025 at 227 Beech Tree Crescent in the meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair, he is.
Okay, will you invite him in, please?
Sure, it's Mr. Hudson.
Hello,
Good evening, Mr. Hudson. Do you hear us clearly?
I do.
Okay. As you may be aware, there is a default on the signage for the property you're representing tonight. And within the committee's bylaws, if there hasn't been enough posted time, we have to defer the application, and there is a deferral fee that you are liable for. Any idea why there is no signage of that
Yes.
application?
Yes, I spoke to the owner. The sign was posted. Photos were provided to the committee that show the sign was posted. However, they were away on the weekend, and their landscaping company that cut the grass apparently removed the sign and forgot to put it back up. That was on Monday, I believe. And then when they came home, I notified them. They were notified that the sign was missing, and I assumed they put it up this afternoon, but obviously they did not. So, but it had been up until Monday afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you for your explanation. However, still, it does not meet the requirement for enough notice, so we will have to defer you. The Secretary Treasurer will try to get you on the next possible available meeting. I can't speak on that, so we'll defer you for now, and then you'll have to see her as to when she will get you in.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good evening. So that's application A072 at 227 Beach Tree Crescent. We do have several also people who were requesting to attend and to speak. And as you're aware, there are letters of objection. So maybe this will be a good thing for you to actually reach out to those neighbors and try and see what their concerns are. We do apologize, but you will get circulated the next hearing date, and at that time you will be able to register once again to speak to this item on the agenda. Again, that's anyone who is here in attendance for A072 of 2025 at 227 Beach Tree Crescent. Thank you. Okay, anyone else have any other issues before we proceed, or anyone else have their hands raised?
Sorry, Madam Chair, do you mind voting on the deferral?
Oh, I did not do that, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of a deferral in lieu of a lack of public notice? Okay, everyone is in accord. The application is deferred. 072 227 Beach Street Crescent. Anyone else before we proceed?
There are no other agents with their hand up.
Okay, very well. We'll take the first item in the agenda, and that is application A066 of 2025 at 147 Diane Avenue. And we do have one letter of objection from Miss Lindsay Thompson. Who is the agent here? Miss Denise Baker. Ms. Baker, are you with us?
I am, thank you, and good evening to you.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's for the record, it's Denise Baker, 1320 Cornwall Road, Oakville, Ontario, L6J 7W5, and I should note that's Suite 201 for my address. I am the lawyer for 147 Dean Avenue. We had provided a cover letter when we submitted the application, and this is our presentation. I will start by saying we concur with the findings of the staff report with respect to the variances, and I can advise that we are in agreement with the proposed conditions. I would ask if we could go to page 3 of the presentation. Thank you. And I just wanted to note for the committee the source of the variances. So the RFA variance is an increase of 27.17 square meters across 2 floors. And it, you can see, is represented at that small portion at the rear of the dwelling. That is a darker shade. That's the only portion that goes beyond the existing foundation. This new house is going to be built on the existing foundation. That's the portion that goes beyond that existing foundation that contributes to that increased RFA across the 2 stories. And in terms of lot coverage, the increase in lot coverage amounts to 9.2 square meters. Of structure, and that's predominantly as a result of the rear covered terrace on the property. So it's our submission that those 2 elements are indeed minor. The side yard setback of 1.1 meters, if you can see it's an existing condition to the basement foundation wall. The 1.1 measurement is located in the southeast corner of the building. You can see that 1.1 measurement, that is to the existing foundation. So we're just legalizing that existing condition because we are building up on the existing foundation. We concur with the findings in the staff report that the proposed variances, both individually and collectively, meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan, and in particular policy 11.1.9 of the town's official plan, and concur that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is desirable for the neighborhood. And to that, if you could please go to paragraph or to pages 6 of the 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the presentation. Those are letters of support from the property owner immediately to the east, immediately to the west, and then 2 additional properties up Dean Avenue to the east. And we do know we were provided with an objection letter yesterday from the committee that, with your indulgence, I would just like to address for a second. The predominant concern on those in this objection letter is the construction, and I appreciate that construction is frustrating for neighborhoods, but really outside the purview of the committee, and of course will be regulated by the town's noise and nuisance bylaw. In addition, there is a concern about existing flooding from the infill house to the rear of this property. However, this house is predominantly being built on the existing foundation, and there are no flooding concerns. I also note that we will be subject to a site alteration permit as part of the building permit process, and where any of those concerns could be addressed. And then I also note that there is concerns about loss of privacy because infill housing in this area is generally 2 stories, and there is quite a bit of other infill housing. I just want to note for the committee that 2 stories is permitted, and there is no variance being sought for height with respect to that. So we submit then that the variances themselves are minor, and as noted in the letters of support, is desirable for the development of this lot, and has no adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. And of course, subject to any questions that a member of the committee may have, those are my brief submissions.
Apologize, I'm muted. Are there any questions of Ms. Baker at this time? Or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Very well. We'll take the matter into committee then. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plans, the building elevations, my site visit, together with the presentation by the owner's consultant and the planning staff report, plus having regard to the both support and objections submitted by the neighbors, I'm still satisfied that the variance is minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I would put forward a motion that the application as applied for be approved, subject to the conditions that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated October 2nd, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Is there a discussion on this recommendation?
Madam Chair, I know I'm speaking out of turn here, but my presentation, and I failed to mention it, obviously October 2nd, 2025 is a date that has not come. The plans are actually dated February 20th, 2025. There was actually an inversion of the month and the date. So if you actually look at the plans, the date of issuance, they are February 20th, 2025, dated on the plans. And I apologize for not addressing that in my presentation. I just want to make sure there's no confusion at the building permit stage.
Thank you for that clarification. That is very odd. Okay. Mr. Roy, can we confirm the plans? I don't have them open in front of me. That they are February 20th, 2025.
If it assists, it's on page 3 of the presentation on the right-hand side, just above the title block. You can see 20/02/2025 issued for COA on the title block, and it's the day, month, and year.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that. Is everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this was duly noted. So now, with the amended date, all those in support of the application? Okay. Ms. Price, is your hand up?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, very good. Very well. The application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. I'm sorry, just bear with me a moment. I did get kicked out of the system. The next item on our agenda is CAV 067 of 2025 at 388 Wheaton Drive. I have Mr. Rafiq as the agent. Anyone who's interested in this application can call 905-815-6095.
Yeah, hello, good evening, Madam Chair
Good
and committee
evening.
members. My name is Pamir Rafiq, 443 Highside Drive, Milton, and I am the agent today representing the owner of this property. We have one variance that I would like to touch up on. The RFA of 41% as per the requirement, and we are asking for 43.84, which is an increase of 2.84%. And we received a letter from the staff that is not in support of it, and I would like to address that very quickly. We have two examples that we found with our research. 383 Wadesworth Street, which has a very similar house, and 3.4% approved. We have 2.84 that we're asking for, which is a higher number that they have approved. Another example at 3% is 377 Morden Road. So we're not even reaching the 3% mark here. And also, I'd like to point out that we have incorporated a lot of architectural features to reduce the massing. Visually, we have wall projections. If you don't mind skipping to a further page, it's the front elevation here. Yes, exactly. Perfect. So you'll notice that we broke up the massing by change of materials, incorporating projections into the wall to break up the flatness and the massing. We have a small entry door, a small cover above the porch with a small roof, and we intentionally, very purposefully, make sure that we're not exceeding the height. We make sure that we're not exceeding the setbacks, which also assumes that the width is not exceeding, and we ensure to not exceed the lot coverage. So every other item here that is related to the height, we made sure that it's not exceeding. Also, our understanding is that the open to aboves what may have triggered this. Do you mind going to the second floor plan? Yeah, one more.
Mr. Rafiq, we don't have the floor plans.
Oh, okay. So no floor plans. Okay. So the open to aboves is one item that was mentioned. We'll see how far we get just in description. And I think it's not a surprise for me to say that the open to aboves are a very standard feature in almost any custom home that is being built in the south of Oakville now. Most houses have the same features in a great room towards the rear of the house, and at least at the front entry, to have a two-story entry at the front. The one thing that may be unusual is a small breakfast area that has an open to above here also. Now, I have done a quick math, and it turns out that even if we were to add the breakfast area into the RFA and remove the open to above there, we would still be underneath. We would still be less than the 3.4%, which was approved at 383 Wadesworth Street. So I think, so in my opinion, to be honest, I find it a little bit unfair that works against us here. And generally speaking, I think the neighborhood is evolving towards the design of what we have here. I understand there's a lot more older homes in the neighborhood, but most of them are being torn down, and houses similar of this scale and design and style are being built. This is nothing unusual for Oakville and the neighborhood. And with all that being said, I was a little surprised, having done many houses in the past of very similar scale, in which I went confidently in the Committee of Adjustment application. We received support from the planning staff with no objections ever. This was the one time where we received a negative or a negative response, to our surprise. And with the reasons that I've given you, I hope that we can receive approval today. And if there's any further clarifications I can do or answer any questions, I'm happy to address them here. Thank you.
Okay, questions and items of clarification that you may have at this time? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the sketch showing the front elevation, looks to be a two-story window to the right of the front door. Is that it, or there's a little strip in between? Is that window in between the window on the second floor and the window on the lower floor? There's a strip in between. Is that window, or is that some other type of material?
No, it will look like a window. It's a full window and a curtain wall system. So it's not a two-story space in that area there. It's more of a design feature, really.
You're saying it'll look like a window. It'll be glassed or appear to be glass on the outside.
It'll probably have an aluminum finish. We can dictate that. We can dictate to ensure that it's an aluminum finish.
The concern is we generally, when you see features that extend a whole two-story, like if that porch and those columns were a whole two-story high, it adds to an appearance of height on the building, and that becomes a concern because it just makes the building look big. And I've seen numerous instances of that, and I do, I acknowledge that it looks it. So then I'm looking at this window that looks to be a two-story window and wondering if that's going to make the building higher, a vertical aspect to it that might give it an appearance of being, I'm going to say bigger than it is. But I guess basically I'm saying if that was some other material there, I might not be concerned about that. I might, if that strip that I was talking about between the second and the third floor, if that was some other building material, I might say, oh no, then you've broken the vertical aspect of vertical, I should say, vertical aspect that was front facade.
Right. Look, I respect that point. I'm curious to know whether it would be possible to include it as a condition and say ensure that that's not a window or not a feature that looks like a window. I'm sure you'd have a better way of wording it and say that it's some sort of a material to break up the glass feature at the front.
That would be my desire. I don't know if we can do a condition like that. I'll have to ask my committee members who've been around a little longer than me, but or maybe the planner or town planner could comment on that aspect of something else or give us advice what we might do.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Usually in an instance like this, we can amend the first recommended condition so that it could be at the discretion of the Director of Planning and Development. Usually we have plans that are built in accordance with, and then a certain date associated with that. So if we create a recommendation condition that insists that it's to the satisfaction, pardon me, of the Director of Planning and Development, then that provides the wiggle room, so to speak, for Mr. Rafiq to revise the elevation drawings to show a different architectural finish in that particular area.
Thank you.
And we're happy to change it from whether it's aluminum or stone or any of the other material, the board and batten. We're happy to revise it in whatever, if it comes down to it, to whatever would satisfy the committee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First for Mr. O'Hare. Notwithstanding your response to Mr. Dickey's question, my reading of the staff report would not change staff's opinion of this variance if that one small change was made. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, that is correct. I was just responding to Member Dickey's question about being able to create recommendations such as that. And yes, you are able to do so. With that being said, staff's position would not change. We still have concerns about some of the other taller two-story elements of the dwelling. Where the garage is located, the left garage door, when facing the home, appears and presents as a full two-story element, projecting massing onto the public realm. We try to encourage, and as to Mr. Rafiq's drawings, above the right garage, there is an awning to help break up that verticality and massing. Planning staff would be supportive of having that continued along the garage. Along the far left end of the dwelling, there's also this plain wall massing that presents as full 2 stories without any breakup between the first and second. Additionally, to the south of the subject property is still a 1-story bungalow dwelling. And within section 11.1.9 of the Livable Oakville official plan, we try to encourage step backs and other sort of architectural features to help minimize impacts on existing 1-story dwellings. So with that said, staff would still be supporting a denial for this particular application as currently presented.
Okay, thank you. And question for the applicant. You referenced 2 other variances in the neighborhood that had smaller percentages or greater percentages than what you're looking for, but sure you can appreciate it's not just the numbers that we look at, it's the impact. And in particular, 377 Morden that you referenced, a quick Google search shows me that that house has got a significant second floor setback for half of the house, both from the front and from the side yard. So I'm just wondering how you believe this, your application does an appropriate job of minimizing the impact of that additional size when your application doesn't have those setback features in the lower roof like Morden has, which you referenced.
Yeah, so we do appreciate it. And in part there is a pushback. Yes, we can acknowledge that. But we have similar features that I would say the eave is still at the same height. The roof is still continuous throughout the entire span of the second floor roof. There's still a lowered porch cover, and some of the elements I think are comparable in my opinion here between that particular house and ours.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Rafiq, I mean, if you are amenable to working with the town and you are ready to make concessions, then why haven't you taken the deferral to try and get somewhere in the middle?
If we meet in the middle in terms of the percentages, I think that would bring us to a square footage increase that is rather insignificant. I had an internal conversation with the owner about this. Because our number is already less than 3%, and if we go to like 1.2% or 1% increase, it's a rather insignificant and unnoticeable amount. So we would say we can just skip on that altogether. Now, if it's just about breaking up the massing, it might be, I think, what's the right way of wording it? If it's just about breaking in the massing, we would very much appreciate it if that is something that could be incorporated in as a condition for an approval, because then we have to consider internally with the owner whether it's worth going through the timeline and a new application and paying for another fee just to incorporate those minor architectural design features, which hopefully, and maybe that's not on the table for you. Policy is policy, I understand, but incorporating those architectural features, revisions as a condition in there.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or items of clarification before we take the matter into committee? I see none. Who would like to start the ball rolling? Mr. Dickey, you have your hand up? Sorry.
Can I just say something in response to the consultant? I'm going to stick my neck out here and say I'm not overly concerned about how much bigger your house is. My concern is how it looks from the street. And as the planner pointed out, and I didn't really look at the sides, there was another concern on the side. We're just looking at the walls and how big the house looks from the street. The actual, if you can, in a sense, hide that element of how big it is, that's what we're, you know, that I just speak for myself. I don't know how other the others feel, but this is not a major. You know, I agree with you. You're asking for almost 44% registered. I mean, RFA versus 41. It's not a big difference in numbers, but this element of these two-story elements do, in my opinion, make the house bigger, and that's our concern. So I'm trying to say to you, if you think that your owner would be willing to make some changes to the facade of the house, etc., that might satisfy the planning department's concerns in that regard, because we often see houses that are bigger than that. There's no denying that, but they're well designed. They look really much smaller from the house and much smaller from the street than the houses are. And that's our concern here. The planner pointed out this aspect of transition because there's an existing one-story house on one side or the other, and we like to do something there in how it appears, how the house appears from the road. I don't know if that would affect your residential floor area, but it's something to be something for you to think about. I'm just saying something. I'm just pointing out my concern is the front facade, and if you were agreeable to go for a deferral and come back with a front facade that makes the house look smaller or whatever, I don't want to quite say it like that, then maybe you should think about a deferral and say, at least in my opinion, I'm not overly concerned about the numbers you have there.
May I make a quick comment to that?
Yep.
Okay, so let's see how this lands. If the owner was clear with me that he is not interested in deferring this, if it will not get approved today, and maybe there will be more conversations had internally to see what the direction will be. But if this will get deferred, the direction that I've understood so far is that we will shrink the house and avoid the variance altogether. Now, if that happens, at that point, it will be a strict zoning, or it will be a strict shell of the home conversation. In which case, even if the owner decided not to break up the massing, the committee would have no more say in that, right? Now, our intention is not to bypass the demands of the committee. Our intention is to respect it, but it would kind of take the concerns of the committee out of the equation if we were to avoid the variance, which was triggered by the size. If that makes any sense. Now, if we were to include it as a condition, then I guess that's the only way to guarantee that we are in line with the demands of the planning staff, and in your view, be in line with the neighborhood. So, sorry for this rant, and I don't mean this as a threat or anything. Regardless, we will do our best to respect the opinion of the committee and break up the massing, whether we choose to keep the planning staff out of the equation and avoid the variance altogether or not. But I think that may be something to consider and simplifying the process for us and in the approval with the condition. Try and make a case for that part.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dickey. If there's nothing else, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Toloski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I appreciate both your and Mr. Dickey's attempt to assist the applicant. But unfortunately, he didn't accept that assistance. And sir, I don't think you quite understand that it's not about the numbers, it's about the impact. And what staff are saying is it's the design, it's not, you've done nothing to try to mitigate the impact of the mass of the house. And while I agree with you, you can bring back a plan that complies with the zoning bylaw, and all you need is a building permit. And you don't have to come to committee, and we don't know what that house would look like. But the point is, you chose not to comply with the zoning bylaw. You asked to exceed it, and with that comes an onus on the applicant to try to mitigate the impact of that variance. Had you accepted the deferral and met with Mr. Hare, you might have come back with a variance for 4% over, but with a different design that would have been acceptable. It's not about the number. It's unfortunate that we couldn't get you to take a deferral, but Madam Chair, I have to agree with staff. There's been no attempt to mitigate the impact of the mass of this house in this application. I don't believe it's desirable at all, meeting the intent of the zoning bylaws. So, Madam Chair, I'm unfortunately going to have to move a deferral or denial of this application.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zalewski. All those in support of denying this application? Okay. Okay, your application has been denied. Sorry, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, application CAV 068-2025 at 37 Colonial Crescent. Again, it says 068 of 2025 at 37 Colonial Crescent. Mr. Hicks is the agent. Anyone interested in the application, please call 905-815-6095. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try and be short. William Hicks of William Hicks Holdings, Inc., 905 Sangster Avenue, agent for the applicant. This is an interesting application, but it's a little unusual. But this is a house that I actually built for a client 32 years ago. The owner that's living in it now has been in it for the past 17 years and wants to undertake a substantial renovation and addition. The interesting part of this, if you go to I think it's the third slide, that one right there. So actually go to the next one because it's a little clearer. So if you look on this plan, we're adding on to the back of the house, which you can see from my cursor, if you can see that there. It all falls within the wings of what I'll call the courtyard. So the maximum depth of the building isn't changing. The maximum depth was approved in a previous application a number of years ago. So those are the maximum depths, or where those wings are. So the additions that are being added on here are actually not visible from the front or from either side. You can only see them from the lakeside. So the one small piece that's shaded here is that because of the Conservation Authority's requirement now, since the house was built, of having a 5-meter right-of-way or easement through this side of the property to manage or fix the seawall, we've actually had to remove a portion of the house, which is taken off of this portion of it, and we've enclosed a piece of a porch. So we've actually increased the side yard setback by quite a bit. So the variances that we're asking for are building height, and if you go to the elevations, which I think were the last slide. Yes, right there. So that's the front elevation. So it's basically facelifting on the street, and there's a minor piece of addition that's visible from the front. That is actually the height of the existing house. The existing house is over 10.5 meters high. So they came back and said, well, even though you're not exceeding the height of the house, if you look at the back, we've lowered the portion of the addition at the back through here so that it's not as high as the existing house. It still needs a variance, and with our addition in the back of the house, it still exceeds 20 meters, but it doesn't go past the rear wall of the existing house, so it's essentially all hidden. And then the third variance, if you go back to the landscape plan, you're going back to the, actually start with that one. So the variance that we're seeking for driveway width is right here, and I know that planning isn't supporting that, but I want to show you the plan because we did have a plan that if you go forward one further, I believe, yes, that one right there. And can you blow that up, just that front portion of the house there? Of the, oh, back to that other site plan if we, yeah, right there, that one. Just blow it up so you'll see, if you can see my cursor, the existing plan that's before you has a curved piece that runs through here. If I extend that out through here, I don't need a variance for driveway width. So I know planning isn't supportive isn't in support of that one element. We're prepared to drop that request for the variance. Doesn't impact any of the rest of the house or the plans. I personally think it's a very minor intrusion into it as this one small piece that's in there, but we're happy to go with the sense of the committee and planning has stated that there's a number of trees taken down. But if you look at the landscape plan, we're planting far more trees than what we're taking down on the property. So it'll be quite an elegant final solution for it. But at the committee's discretion there, I think the driveway width variance is quite minor. We exceed the 50% landscape space within the front yard, so there's no other variances. The height is less than the existing house. The depth is less than the existing house, and none of the neighbors can see it. We have spoken to the neighbor on the west side. He's satisfied with it. All the trees are being preserved, and we're planting additional trees. So it really came down to that one small element on that piece of the landscape plan. But we are prepared to proceed without that variance if the committee saw fit to just approve the two, and we'll ignore the third. But I personally think the third one is a reasonable variance myself. But with that, I'll leave it open to questions from the committee. So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hicks. Questions, items of clarification? Go ahead, Mr. Trowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Hicks, we can't see your cursor, so
okay, yeah, okay, my apologies. So
we put that back up and try to explain it.
I'll describe it. So on the right side of that front forecourt, if you looked at the other landscape plan, there's two round ends to that, call it the center island that you're driving around. In the plan that has the rounded end on both the right and the left side, we need a variance for the width of the driveway, or it goes immediately to the right towards the other neighbor's garage that you can see there in that long projection. By building what's on this plan, it actually conforms totally. So the only piece that does not conform is probably a 4-foot strip out of that landscape piece in the center of it. So if it goes back to a curve to match the exact opposite side, it totally conforms. So we're happy to go with it either way. I think it's a more elegant solution with the two curves instead of this projecting piece, and it makes it a little easier for the driver to get out of his garage, etc. So, but I don't want it to become an issue that we lose a variance application because of it. But I disagree with planning's comments on it. But I'll go with the decision of the committee on that. So, because we know we can do it without any need for a variance for that. So, this just is, as an architect and a landscape architect, this is a better solution. What we were proposing, which is on the plan just before this one, I think so. And my apologies on the cursor. I always assume that when I'm like a Zoom call, you can see my cursor.
Yeah.
So,
Fortunately, technology is not there yet. Mr. Hicks, just for clarity, did you say you want to amend your application, or you still want the committee to deal with that variance?
Yeah, you know what? To make it simple, I'm preferred to amend the application and just delete that variance. So.
And then
it's not a major issue to the client by any means. So
a deletion of the variance with the site plan subject to the approval of the director. Is the
Yes,
site-
and the other site plan is actually already in that package, but it hasn't been formally submitted, so, but I can do that. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions, items of clarification? Mr. Dickey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to confirm, Mr. Heck, you said that you do comply with the 50% soft
Yes.
landscape, whatever the wording. I mean, you do comply with that. That's because of basically the size of the big circle of grass in the middle.
That's right. Yeah.
And other pieces at the side.
And there's pieces all around. It doesn't look like 50%, but it does. We've done those calculations.
Yeah,
always.
that's what I was getting
Yeah,
at.
so,
I wanted to make sure I heard that right. Yeah, you do comply there. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there's nothing further. We can take the matter into committee. Who would like to go ahead, Mr. Towski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm going to move that the application as amended to remove variance number 1 be approved. Finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, I do not see any impacts from those variances. I would also note that there is no objection from the community. And I'd make that approval subject to the dwelling being constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings. It's going to change. So elevation drawings dated April 1st and site plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, and that the variance expires in 2 years if the building permit hasn't been issued.
Very well. All those in support of this, is there a discussion on this recommendation first? I see none. All those in support? Okay. Your application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay. Application A69 at 417 Union Street. Again, it's A069 of 2025 at 417 Union Street. Mr. Van Kulen is our agent. Go ahead.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Curtis Van Kulen from Hughes Design Studio, 1A Conestoga Drive, Brampton, Ontario, Unit 301. I'm representing the owner of this property. We actually designed the house a number of years back, came before you, received a small variance for about 1.3 lot coverage overage. Since then, the house was constructed, turned out looking really nice. The owner put in a deck at the rear and a small storage shed to the rear. The small storage shed does not require a building permit. However, unbeknownst to them, they did not know that they needed to comply to the lot coverage for something that didn't need a building permit. So upon final inspections and some security releases being held, the building inspector pushed them to come back and get the variances to basically legalize the deck that was built as well as the storage shed. So I'm here before you tonight to seek 3 minor variances. 2 of them are related to the storage shed itself. Obviously, the lot coverage for the storage shed being proposed at 27.71%, which is over the 25%. That equates to about a 1% overage, 1.4% overage for the storage shed itself, on top of the already approved minor variance of 26.31. So that's a small 1.4% lot coverage for a small storage shed. The peak height of the storage shed has a rather a large slope to it. So although it does reach a high peak, it does slope down quickly. So the massing at the very top of the shed is not great by any means. It is a gable roof. So the peak itself reaches a height of about 0.29 meters over, about 12 inches over the allowed maximum, just at the very peak of the roof. So those are two of the variances related to the shed itself. We feel both of those meet the 4 tests. They're minor in nature, cause no impact or shadow or any kind of impact on the neighbors. The last variance I want to address is the projection into the rear yard. The projection into the rear yard is mainly, if staff could zoom in on the rear of the dwelling, there's a bit of a red mark just at the top of the page that kind of delineates the projection into. And I also want to kind of zoom in a bit on the grading numbers that we provided as well. So on the left-hand side of the page, it's kind of the northeast direction. So, sorry, the west side is the left-hand side of the page. That's the side of the deck that's actually over the 0.6, triggering the deck to be counted in terms of the projection into the rear yard. On the opposite side, so the right-hand side of the page, which is sort of the easterly side, we're actually below 0.6 meters there. We're at 0.58 meters. So as the backyard kind of slopes from east to west, the deck is a little bit too high on one side, thus triggering us to have to consider it within the rear yard setbacks, encroachments, etc. So it's kind of a 50-50 where half the deck complies because of its height and the other half doesn't because of its height on that side due to the backyard sloping. So it's very minor in terms of that. So we also feel it meets the 4 tests and it doesn't cause any undue harm or impact on the neighboring properties. So with that, I submit it back to the committee for any questions or concerns you might have. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Are there any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Van Kulen? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This sketch you were talking about, I don't see where there's anything minor there. I see a bunch of trees along the back and a line just south, I shouldn't say so, down from that. Is that line not the line for the proposed, actual existing deck?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, the line of the deck is just below those that row of trees. So again, the deck is an elevated platform similar to a patio. It's like I said, it just goes over the 0.6 meter height on the one side. On the other side, it's below the 0.6 meter threshold, and it would not be considered as a projection into the rear yard on that side.
You're saying the deck isn't all the same floor elevation?
Not in relation to the finished grade at the rear of the property due to the sloping of the rear of the property. The deck itself is level. It's at 84.33 meters above sea level. The finished grade on one side is 83.74 meters. The finished grade on the opposite side is 84.34 meters. So there's a bit of a drop, or sorry, it's 83.33 meters on that side. So there's a bit of a drop on that backyard.
Okay, so what you're saying to me, if the deck was below the 0.6 meters, it would have been okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here for the deck at all if it was entirely below 0.6 meters. It's just because on the one side, we're slightly above that 0.6 meters, just on the one side.
Well, 6 meters is about 2 feet. I went into that backyard and I thought that deck on the west side was about 2.5 feet high.
Yeah, it's 0.88 meters. Yeah.
You're saying if I didn't pay attention when I walked over to the east side, you're saying on that side above grade it would have been lower.
Yeah, it's 0.58 on that side, and you can see that on the numbers provided in front of you.
That's a big deck. It's a high deck. That deck goes all the way back to, well, obviously, I guess 1.88 meters of the rear lot line. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking I just want to make sure I have the concept right. Forget about the height, but basically, as I understand it, the rear yard setback from the zoning bylaw is 7.5, and you're allowed to have a 1.5 meter encroachment into the rear yard setback. So there should be a 6 meter of rear yard back there without a deck. But you've done that down, and you've only, instead of 6 meters, you've got 1.88 meters without a deck. Am I misunderstanding any? I know what you're talking about, the height. I'm just talking about what's physically there.
Yeah, you are correct. Through you, Madam Chair, you are correct on that, member. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based upon my review of the owner's application, the site plan, the building elevations, and my site visit, together with the presentation by the owner's consultant and the planning staff's report, I unfortunately are not satisfied that the variances are minor in nature, do not conform to the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I feel relative to the encroachment that I talked about, that though the intent of that is to prevent overlook and to prevent privacy concerns to the neighbors, I believe there is overlook and privacy concerns, overlooked because of the height of the deck, and privacy concerns because of how close it is to the rear yard. Therefore, I put forth a motion to deny this application. Thank you.
There's discussion on this recommendation. Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm not going to be supporting that recommendation to deny. As I understood Mr. Van Keulen's explanation, while the variance sounds significant, it's only being triggered by less than a foot of elevation change at one part of the deck. And I suspect if this was the only variance they needed, they would have raised the grade by 8 inches on that corner of the deck and complied with the bylaw. So I really think this is a technical variance just based on them having to measure the distance above grade at both ends of the deck. So I can't support the application to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Talowski. Any further comments? Okay, so the motion is to deny the application. All those in support? Okay, all those opposed? All right, so the motion fails, and we have to deliver a new motion. Would you like to do the honors, Mr. Talowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, pleased to move that this application be approved as applied for. I do not see an impact of this variance. As I stated, I believe it is very technical in nature with respect to the deck, and I believe that the shed variances are also minor in nature with no impact. Having said that, I find that the application does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I would note that, again, there's no opposition from the community, and I would make that approval subject to the shed and deck being permitted in general accordance with the revised DESP 2020-129-197 and elevation drawings issued for C of A dated 03/24/2025 to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, and that the approval expires within 2 years if the building permit hasn't been issued.
Very well, thank you. Is there discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, all those opposed? Thank you. Your application has been approved. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Take care.
Application A071 of 2025 at 15 Washington Avenue. Again, that's A071 of 2025 at 15 Washington Avenue. Miss Amelia Villa is our agent.
Good
Good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of committee. My name is Emily Vey, and I'm from the office of Wilmot Strickland, and I'm here to represent the owner, who is Mr. Mark Briggs. I believe if we could scroll through the all the drawings, please, or go ahead all the way to the end, please. And then if we could go back to page 1 afterwards. So basically, we are proposing a new 2-story dwelling with the new attached single-car garage and a rear deck. And we are seeking a relief of 2 minor variances. Number 1, as you see there on the site plan, it's to permit an increased projection of 1.91 meters into the rear yard for a rear deck having a floor height that's greater than 0.6 meters as measured from the grade, whereas the maximum projection is 1.5 meters. The proposed deck is 0.78 meters from grade. And the second variance that we are seeking relief is the increase in the maximum residential floor area of 54.8%, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum residential floor area of 43%. And if we could go to page 3, please, for the, thank you. As you can see there, the deck steps down from the main floor level, and it's approximately 0.78 meters above the surrounding grade. And at a depth of 2.74 meters, it's proposed to be an ambulatory space that connects the main house to the grade level in the rear yard. And although it's a generous area, it's not deep enough for a large gathering space to be of concern, we believe, for creating an overlook towards the adjacent neighbor's amenity space. And if we go to page 2, please, for the front elevation. The intent of the zoning bylaw provision is to prevent the dwelling from having a mass and scale that appears larger than the dwellings in the surrounding neighborhood. And to follow the guideline, we designed the new dwelling to be below the lot coverage maximum and designed the building height to be lower than the permitted maximum. And we also located the new dwelling to be within the minimum building setbacks. And particularly, we moved the house further from the front property line so that they're more consistent with the front setbacks of the adjacent neighboring properties. All of these measures effectively hide the fact that the proposed floor area is greater than the maximum permitted. And I also learned from the staff report that the property is relatively undersized compared to the other properties within the neighborhood. Therefore, it's subject to a more rigorous standard of maximum residential floor area. And furthermore, the house is proposed with horizontal siding, which is compatible with the existing neighborhood character, and also the structure is divided into distinct volumes to further mitigate the massing and to create a facade that doesn't dominate the streetscape. And you can see that if you just scroll through the other elevations, please. The side elevations, you could see that the volumes are quite distinct. The next side elevation, please. And if you go to the last page, page 8, please. The staff has no objection to the minor variances, and we concur with the opinion that the proposed 2-story dwelling is in keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood, and it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And as you can see from the map, the owner has encountered his neighbors, and the general consensus is that it's favorable and there were no concerns raised. And you could see the following address. You can see the green dots there. Those are the ones that have given their support. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vea. Any questions, items of clarification, Ms. Vea, at this time? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really, today I'm really sticking out on my opinions. Some things I don't have a problem with the house, and you know, it looks suitable for the neighborhood and everything like that. So I agree with the planning department there. We shouldn't be looking at the numbers, but that's a big number from 43% to 54% on the residential floor area. And I don't know if it's fair for me to ask this question to the town planner, but I'll ask it and you can you can answer. But has the issue of smaller lots been addressed, or is in the proposed zoning bylaw that's coming about, and it would solve this problem or add more clarity to this problem in the future?
Yep. Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Dickey's question. I actually did have a conversation with one of our zoning examiners about that exact same question for the upcoming residential zoning review. That will be something that is going to be addressed for these kind of undersized lots, as within the current 2014-014 bylaw. The minimum size for a lot is 557.5 square meters. So at that size or lower, that 43% residential floor area ratio applies across the board. And it wasn't taken into account for smaller lots such as these that has a lot area of only 394.63 square meters. So that is something that is going to be addressed with part of this new residential zoning that's going to be coming out very soon, updates for that. So with that taken into account, in addition to, again, the way the dwelling has been designed and elements of the second floor incorporated into the roof line, although the magnitude of the variance does seem large, had it been a lot closer to that 557.5, the magnitude of the variance wouldn't seem as great. And so that was part of the rationale that was included within the report and will be addressed as part of the zoning review process.
Thank you. I'll just add one more thing. I have a consultant, or I don't know how do I say this. I have a person who's familiar with Brampton's zoning bylaw, and they don't seem to impose any residential floor area. You can build within your building element envelope. So that was a big thing in making me more comfortable with that high number. So I'll just say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, I see none. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Okay, taking into consideration my site visit, the owner's report, the agent's presentation, and the staff report, plan and staff report, as well as letters of support from the neighbors that you mentioned using the green dots. I believe the 4 tests have been met, and therefore the variance can be considered minor in nature. I recommend the owner's application be approved subject to the following conditions: that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with his submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated April 14th, 2025. That the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Okay, application CAV 008 of 2025 deferred from February the 5th of 2025 at 190 Tilford Road. Again, that's A008 of 2025 at 190 Tilford Road. I have Sandra Gava as the agent.
Madam Chair, can I just interrupt for one moment?
Yes, go ahead.
I believe there's still a delegate in the attendees who wanted to speak to the beech tree application. So do you mind just letting them know that the application has been deferred?
Oh, okay. I thought it was clear before. Okay, go ahead. Ms. Gava, just bear with us for a moment.
Did you want me to move him into the meeting, or do you just want to state that it's been deferred? As we just passed this in the agenda, I just don't want them to think that, we're still coming up to that.
Were they on standby? Did they have their hand up when I addressed the matter?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Did they put their hand up to deal with the beech tree?
No, not right now. No, they didn't have their hand up.
Okay, but they've been in the meeting this entire time?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Then please go ahead and put them through.
Sure.
Mr. Sao, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, yes. So
Okay. We just noticed that you
don't-
were in the meeting. This is not the time to address the application. I just wanted you to know that the application has been deferred. So you will receive another notice once it comes back on the agenda, and you'll be able to speak at that time and submit any letters of objection if you so choose.
Okay. So what's the time frame we will have the
I can't give you a time frame. It depends on how soon the Secretary of Treasurer will be able to bring them on an upcoming agenda.
Can you tell me what's the reason why it's deferred?
Yes, we deferred it for insufficient notice. Their signage was not up for the entire duration of time that it was supposed to be up. So for the protection of the public and their knowledge of the matter, we deferred them.
Do you defer or the owner defer?
No, we deferred them. We have a right as a committee to defer them when their signage has not been up for the entire time that it's supposed to be.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for clarification.
And we did, and I did also, just for your knowledge, encourage the applicant to reach out to all the neighbors who have submitted letters of objection. All right?
Yes,
Okay.
but they never talk to us.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens next time then. So
Okay.
I wish you a good night.
Okay, thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Gava, thank you for that. Go ahead. It's your time with us.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm the architect and agent on this file. First, just as was noted in the planning report, we did get a site alteration development engineering permit done first for this, just to ensure that we wouldn't have any negative impact on drainage and trees. So that's been approved. So we're looking for just a side yard setback for a small cabana on this property. And it's to house a small washroom and the pool equipment. And that's because there's no really functionally accessible washroom on the ground floor, to be able to use for the outside activities. So therefore, the desire to put one in a separate building. And while it is in the side yard because of the semi-pie-shaped lot, it is, really functionally and visually a part of the backyard. And the reason that it is in this particular location is that really all of the other open space on the property is taken up. We were sort of naturally wanted it to be. It was in this lawn area, but that's actually the existing soakaway pit. So we decided to put it, slightly into this side yard where that existing pool equipment is. And if you just go to the next slide, you'll see that is where the existing pool equipment is. It's semi-concealed. And the next slide shows sort of the other side to that. So it's open as well to the neighbor. So we're, putting a small washroom beside it and concealing all of this into a small building. It's going to match the style of the existing house, really simple brick structure. We think that will be, look a lot better than what is there now. And yeah, thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Very well. Any questions for Ms. Gava at this time? Items of clarification. Okay, I see none. If no one is called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer.
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Okay. Taking into consideration my site visit, the owner's report, the agent's presentation, as well as the planning staff report, I believe that the 4 tests have been met, and therefore the variance can be considered minor in nature. I recommend the owner's application be approved subject to the following conditions. That the accessory structure cabana be constructed in the general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated April 25th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, and there's none opposed. So your application has been approved. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Application A028 of 2025 deferred from March the 5th of 2025 at 2375 Carrington Place. Again, that's 028 of 2025 at 2375 Carrington Place. I have Peter Giordano as our agent. Go ahead, Mr. Giordano.
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. Peter Giordano, David Small Designs, 1405 Cornwall Road in Oakville. We're the project designers and the authorized agent. Could I ask the moderator to advance my presentation to slide 3, please? There we go. I'll do my best to be brief. This application was originally deferred at the March the 5th hearing. The deferral presented us with the opportunity to formally revise our application and all associated documents. We return today with a modified list that reduces our variance items from 5 to 2. The first being the private garage area increase from 56 square meters to 63.38 square meters. It provides parking for 3 cars using a stacked tandem parking layout. From the street, the garage represents itself as a 2-car garage. The intent of the regulation regulating the garage area is to avoid the garage from becoming a visually dominant feature. I would suggest that our front elevation has achieved this. I do have 3D front, side, and rear elevations in this presentation I could refer to if you'd like to see them as well. But if we stay on this slide, our second variance item is for building depth. It's required because we have a habitable space below grade, below the rear porch. This results in the measuring line for the depth to the end of the 1-story covered porch and not to the rear wall, as would be the case if the porch was unexcavated below and classified as an allowable encroachment. You can see in the image on slide number 3 on your screen that our dwelling depth to the longest rear wall is 19.69 meters. It steps back to 17.45 and then ultimately to 12.83 meters at the garage portion of the house on the right side as we move left to right. This massing is in compliance with the 20-meter permitted depth. The current porch design with the excavated space below is the encroachment required as part of the variance number 2. So effectively, we're asking you to permit the habitable space below the rear porch. It's an open rear porch, 1 story tall. Our proposed building setbacks and heights are all as of right. Planning staff have no objections to our application. We acknowledge and accept the 2 conditions of approval. In closing, we believe our 2 variance items to be minor in nature, non-impactful to the neighbors or neighborhood. Thank you for your patience. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. Are there any questions or items of clarification of Mr. Giordano at this time? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Very well, thank you. Who would like to move a motion? Mr. Dickey, go ahead.
Here. Based upon my review of the owner's application, site plan, the building elevations, my site visit, presentation by the owner's consultant, and the planning staff's report, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I put forth a motion that the application as applied for be approved, subject to the conditions that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated March 20th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you.
Terrific. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Application 057 of 2025, deferred from April the 30th at 339 Pine Grove Road. Again, it's 057 of 2025, deferred from April 30th at 339 Pine Grove Road. And I have Ms. Reda Al-Kassab as our...
Speaking.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. This is Architect Gada from AG Architects. Address 2302 Crestmont Drive, Oakville. I am agent acting on behalf of owners of 339 Pine Grove. This is an application for 1 minor variance. We are seeking relief from zoning bylaw that is for residential floor area. To permit a residential floor area increase to 40.96%, while permitted is 39%. We received staff comments and they are in support of the application. Staff opinion that the proposed 2-story detached dwelling maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. We acknowledge and accept condition of approvals. Before we apply to minor variances, we requested pre-consultation meeting with the staff to clarify how they propose the new development designed to maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. I will speak briefly about the variance being requested to permit increase in the residential floor area. The main reason for the overage is to accommodate office room at the 1st floor and walk-in closets in the 2nd floor. Please go to page 2. New development complies with key regulations. Coverage permitted 35%, proposed 34.7%. Height permitted 9 meters, proposed 8.9 meters. New development complies with all setbacks. Please go to page 3. Primary facade designed to reduce building masses. Closest mass to the street is the front semi-covered porch with 9.5 feet height. That is highlighted here in red color. Proposed one-story garage mass with 14.5 feet height mass, number 2, which is highlighted in blue. 1.5 story for living room mass with 16.5 height, mass number 3, highlighted in green, and the 2-story part of the dwelling step back with proposed projected and recessed masses, small projected mass for the bedroom number 3 at the second floor, mass number 5 highlighted in purple color, and recessed mass for the foyer, which is highlighted in the orange color. Primary facade incorporates different heights for roof lines and the step backs to mitigate the massing and scale impact on the street scale. In that, proposed dwelling does not create overpowering effect on the streetscape. Also, proposed development incorporates single-story stucco building elements and architectural features found within the surrounding neighborhood. In that, proposed design generally maintains the overall character of the existing neighborhood. No other variance is requested for this project, and we feel it is minor in nature and designed to meet the 4 test. I turn back for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Ms. Kassab? Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to move a motion then? Go ahead, Mr. Tlowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'll move that this application be approved as applied for, finding that it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I believe there's significant articulation in the design that will mitigate the impact of the variance. I'd also note that there's no objection from the community. I would make that approval subject to the dwelling being built in general accordance with the site plan dated January 27, 2025, and elevation drawings dated December 18th, 2024, and that the variance expires in 2 years if a building permit hasn't been issued.
Very well, thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? Okay. The application has been approved, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
I need a confirmation for the minutes of the May 14th meeting. Thank you, Ms. Price. And I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. We are adjourned at 8:37.